Recording.
Hello, my
Hello.
name's Samantha.
What? No funny intro?
We're in an office setting. Serious
Oh.
business here. Forget the pillow I have in the back.
Oh. Well, I came prepared. If you have a check, I've got a talent. Mason.
And you know it's good when you hear right
I can't
company.
Although we're in Japan today.
Yes. But you know what? We forgot to do that at the beginning of our Boys Love Awards, and that annoyed me so bad after I watched it back.
Oh, we did?
We totally didn't do it at all. And I'm like,
Oh.
all fucking year we've been doing this.
Well, hey, it was a special episode. I didn't put the full title in it either, so
Right. So it's okay. We did all right.
we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah. So today we're doing Cherry Maho or
30 years of
30
virgin
years.
turned me into a wizard.
So let's talk about that title real quick before we get into the story. So the story is it's actually a Japanese BL manga that was turned into a series. And it's based on an internet meme about how being incel basically leads you to get superpowers. So it started off as like an internet meme about, gamers, incel types, and how, storing up your manly fluid leads you to have like special strength. And by the time you turn 30, if you haven't had sex, you'll be a wizard because you've saved up all your man juice. I don't know. I don't have a penis
Mhm.
or testes. But apparently this meme really took hold in Japan. And so the person who wrote the original manga was like, I'm going to take this meme and write a whole story about it. So that is where this comes from. It wasn't just something that the author plucked out of thin air. It's something
Mhm.
that is more rooted in internet culture, which I find incredibly surprising because this is not one of those shows that relies heavily on memes and current events and trendy things. This really is a story that could have taken place anytime in the last 15 to 20 years.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought I'd put that out there because that was something that I found to be incredibly special.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I just thought it was like a saying in Japan.
yeah, it's the internet coming through,
Yeah.
invading our spaces. All right, so do you want to give a brief synopsis of the story, Mason?
Sure. So honestly, the title is pretty self-explanatory. This guy named Adachi is turned 30 and he notices that he can read minds because he's a virgin. So if anyone comes into like physical contact with him, even if it's like over the clothes, he can read their mind. And he ends up finding out that the handsome, popular guy that everyone likes in his office has a major crush on him. And it's basically about how they fall in love.
Kiss, kiss, fall
Fall in
in
love.
love.
Speaking of that, one of the things that I really liked about this was that it felt like a shoujo manga. Like it just felt like every other shoujo manga, but the leads were male. And I was so here for it because I have not seen that before in a boys' love. And I would love to see more of it. I'm so into this. Please.
Yes, if anyone would like to recommend other shows that are similar in tone or similar in feel, please leave comments down below because it is definitely something very different. We watched I See Sunspots. Was that the one we watched before? I Hear Sunspots.
Yeah, I hear sunspots about you. The English translation's weird.
Yeah, so we did that one, and I remember watching that one and feeling like this feels all over the place. This I don't like this. Like it had moments where it seemed like it went really fast, and then moments where it seemed like it went really slow.
Mm-hmm.
And then we watched Gibbon, but Gibbon was an animated series, so it's a little bit different. We watched Life, Love on the Line, which while I did appreciate that, it was a much shorter series and it felt a little bit more insular because of how short it was. This
Right.
was a full 12 episodes plus two special episodes,
Mm-hmm.
and it just really felt like a more developed story. It felt like a story where this timeline didn't feel as rushed, and it definitely did a lot more for world building. Like there's some side characters in this show that you really come to care about. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't say I've always felt that way with some of the other Japanese shows that we watched. And I mean, not even like secondary couples. I mean, like just people who work in the office are like, you go, girl.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that about this show.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very, to me, it was a very successful adaptation of a manga into a show. And I read the first couple of books for this manga. And while they were incredibly faithful to the manga itself, there's just more here. Like this show just has more in the
Mm-hmm.
best way possible. So I this was a great watch for me.
Oh, that's good. I also really liked it to a point where I'm honestly not even sure if this review will be very long because it was just a really solid show.
I have things I'd like to talk about. I mean, not like criticisms. I just have things I want to talk about.
Oh,
So
sure.
yeah. So let's start by the fact that this is the first BL that we've watched where I didn't have massive problems with everybody's hair. First Japanese BL.
Oh yeah. It is crazy to me that Japan has not figured out how to make a wig. Crazy to me.
I don't understand it because the wigs are easy to find. They're on Amazon. You can get them on AliExpress. I mean, there's wig videos on the internet of how to, get that hairline right, put on the baby hairs. There's
Mhm.
no way that Japan could go this far into the future and still not get the hair right. So I guess whoever was doing this said, fuck a wig. We're just all going to wear our hair. And I appreciate that choice.
And I think that works. I mean, they're all just like generic salarymen in Japan. So I think having like natural hair works better than them having like, oh, who's the main character? Oh, he's the guy with the pink hair sitting in the corner, you know?
Right. Also, another thing that I found interesting, and this is kind of having to do with the hair, but not really. So the character Rokaku, I believe is his name. He's one of the
Mhm.
guys who works in the office, and he's also friends with Minato, who is Suge's love interest. I'm kind of skipping ahead by giving you character names here. He had probably the most different hair of all the people in the office because his hair was light brown and everybody else's hair was dark, kind of black colored. And
Mhm.
also, it was kind of, I would say, a more youthful style, maybe, than other people in the office.
Yeah.
That is because he is an idol.
In real life?
Yes, in fact, three of the leads are idols, either have been or are currently idols.
Oh, I thought it was a story standpoint to him have the lighter hair because it seemed like he had kind of recently given up on his dream of wanting to be a dancer. And like
Hmm.
Minato had the bleach blonde hair, like he was going strong. He was a bit more rebellious. And Minato was like, or Rokaku was like, oh, I'm gonna try to fit in an office setting more. So I thought
Hmm.
it was like a storytelling thing that he was just like youthful and had other interests
No,
and
it's
wasn't like
actually because,
assimilated yet into the office setting.
and I think that would be a great story making point to like match his hair to the fact that he's like slowly giving up on his dreams, but not quite. But no, it's because he's also an idol. He's a part of one of those. Okay, I'll let you talk about this more than me because you know this better than I do. Japan has a weird way that they do idoldom that's very different from Korea.
Yes. And I don't know a lot about it, honestly. I'll be very honest. A lot of what I know from Idoldom in Japan comes from Produce 48. And that show did nothing but try to attack the Japanese contestants. I mean, they really set them up to fail with the audition episodes. It just, there was a complete level difference between the Korean trainees and the Japanese trainees on that show. To a point where I was watching Minato and I'm like, this guy can't dance. I don't know why they're trying to make me think he can dance. But then I was thinking back to Produce 48 and I'm like, no, no, he's good enough. He's definitely good enough for
It's
this
funny because
system.
he's one of the only leads who is not a former idol.
Why? Okay, so if you're gonna cast
Suge
former
is.
idols, oh, what? Anyways, if you're gonna cast a former idol, Why wouldn't you cast him in the dancer role?
I guess they went with whoever they felt matched the character the best. But yeah, Suge used to be a part of a Johnny's group, JJ Express, and he was with Johnny since he was like a kid, like 13, 14.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so like these
Oh.
are real idols. And then Kurosawa
Mm-hmm.
was a part of an exile subunit.
Oh, okay. You know what? I
Yeah.
can see it. He's just. Come on, you know what I mean. He
I know
just
what you mean.
got it. You sent me a video of him doing push-ups this morning.
I thought you'd enjoy the VR aspect.
I didn't realize it was VR until I tried to close out of it and the room was spinning.
So there's that. And then, of course, Rokaku, he is a part of a group called Ibitan, which is part of an EB system because he has a little brother who's in EB-ish. But yeah, those three are all former singer dancer idol types.
Mm.
And I think that Rukaku is still currently in an idol group. I mean, their status of are they in or are they out is kind of weird because for sure the guy who plays Suge is out of Johnny's, but then they like do reunions with their former group members, so that makes it kind of confusing for me. But the Japanese idol system basically is like it's like an idol for all the people. So if you are part of the AKB system, you might be AKB Nagoya, where somebody else is AKB Tokyo or AKB uh, Kyoto. And so they'll have a building in that city where they perform maybe 2 or 3 times a day on the weekends, maybe once a night during the week. And they'll have a dormitory where the idols live at while they're going back and forth from like performing and living or whatever. And so you can be an idol in Japan and only a handful or maybe a few hundred people might know you because you might be your local prefecture's idol. So you might be an idol for the AKB Nagoya unit, and that's what you do. And you're in the background of like these big national videos, but you're not actually like a well known idol.
Right.
And so, because of that, it's not necessarily weird that there's so many former idols in this boys' love. It's just weird the places that they occupy because Suge, you could not have told me he was a former idol.
I am gooped.
And the fact that he's only 28 shocked me because I thought he was a smooth 35. So, like, it's just, you just never know. But yeah, he has one particular line in the show where he's like, I was watching Minato because I want to dance. And then, like, they never show him dance. They make it seem like he totally wiped out the first step he took.
Mm.
And I saw a practice video of him dancing. He's not a bad dancer. It's not really my style of dancing, but he can actually dance. And it's just so strange that they didn't choose the people that had dance backgrounds to play the dancers. Instead, they played people who never dance.
Mm.
So it was interesting. It was interesting.
I mean, maybe they took those roles because they wanted to get out of their comfort zone. Because I actually think that Suge is one of the best actors on the show. Like, I think his character, I don't know, I just really like Suge. I think his character was like the perfect comic relief for the side. I liked how he could go from 0 to 100 like that, but it felt natural and it didn't take me out of the story at all. It worked for me. I thought he was very talented and I really want his cat. Like, I will steal that cat. He's a good cat.
Udon is a star.
Udon, we stand.
And I love Udon's little cat tower.
Yeah.
Like every time they'd just be like randomly talking, hear Udon in the back. Just fiercely going at it. But okay, now let's get back to the actual story because we've done a lot of offshoots and you guys are like, are you actually going to talk about the boys' love? Yes, we are.
Hey, they know what's in. This is Tangentville.
Yeah. Welcome to Tangentville. Okay, so
maybe that should be our opening instead.
It feels like it. The Lazy Town people might sue us. We have to be careful.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's just start out with the character of Adachi because he is such a special character. I really love that his character wasn't an extreme because even
Mhm.
though his character and all the characters in this story are based on BL, and usually BL mangas fall into tropes, like just really hard fall into tropes,
Mhm.
he was very much a human being from the very beginning.
Mhm.
And that, I think that's one of the things that makes this story so much different to me than some of the other Japanese stuff we saw, because it never felt to me like he was one dimensional. He definitely had layers. Like there are, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I agree.
Yeah. Because there were certain times where I would have expected him to not be as brave as he was, or not to be as kind of thoughtful as he was, or just, to completely fall apart, because that's the way a lot of these characters are written. And he surprised me in many ways of just like the way that he showed he was multidimensional. And so I think that that already put us in a great place, because of all the people in the show, he's the person whose thoughts we hear the most, which is surprising because in the show, he's constantly being bombarded by other people's thoughts. But we're constantly hearing him in his mind reacting to what he's hearing from other people's thoughts. So he is the main character. But he's never one of those people who's just like, what? Gay? Like that never happens. That
Mhm.
never happens, which is, again, super surprising. And it's never kind of like, you kissed me and I found out I was gay type of thing. Like it wasn't like that. Like he's just like, it must be nice to be loved by somebody. Love
Mhm.
sounds like a good thing. And I think that that just made it to where I couldn't help but root for him the whole
Mhm.
time, because he never was a super black and white character. He was always gray with just a tinge of pink. And I really appreciated that about him as a character and about the way his actor portrayed him. Now, don't get me wrong, he plays Shy better than anyone I've ever seen. Like his Shy was a completely believable, I'm introverted Shy.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that. A
Mhm.
lot of people, when they think of Shy, they think of, oh gosh, they think of Fluke's character from Until We Meet Again.
Yeah. I see what you're
They
saying.
think of, yeah, think of somebody like that has their head down and is,
Yeah.
and that's not necessarily his kind of Shy. His kind of Shy kind of more comes from the fact that he doesn't really have anything that he feels is special about himself.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that is ultra relatable to a lot of people, especially the older you get. Like when you're a kid and people ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you say something like, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a race car driver. And the older you get, the more kind of reality sets in, and the more you kind of like lower your expectations, refine your goals, and kind of start to say, I have to pursue things that are realistic.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of times in this story where he says, someone like me, or I admire you because you have a dream. So his Shy isn't that he necessarily thinks that he's not worthy of other people's attention, even though there is a tinge of that. A lot of it is just, he's really caught up in the idea of I'm an ordinary guy
Mhm.
and there's nothing special about me. I'm not less than a lot of people. I'm just not special.
Mhm.
And I think that can make you shy when you feel like you're not special, because you don't understand why people would want to see you. You don't understand why people would want to care about you if you don't see that thing in yourself.
Mhm.
And I really liked the way he played that in this story. And I liked the way that the actor showed what made Adachi special. It wasn't necessarily his talent, it was his empathy.
Mhm.
And so I really, really enjoyed his character quite a bit.
I did too. I thought it was a good character. I thought the acting was good. Um, I don't think I have anything more to add to that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, I that's okay, because we got several characters to run through. Next, we need to talk about Kurosawa being dream husband material.
He is perfect. Like, and I like that. I I understand that it's unrealistic, but like when I'm watching a shoujo anime or reading a shoujo manga, I want the fantasy of the perfect boyfriend. And he gave that. I will say, I wish they leaned more into, he had like two problems. One was he was like, I'm just so pretty. And then the other one was something else, and I forgot what it was. Do you remember? Like he had like two things that he was kind of.
I mean, the only two things that I can think of is the I'm so pretty problem, and then the constant like gay panic problem.
Nope,
Be-
that's not what I'm thinking of. Because he like in text had like two things that he was concerned about, and I forgot what the other one was. But the too pretty thing, I have to say, I had very little sympathy for the screen time that it was giving me with that. Because as an ugly person, I don't sympathize and I don't care. I don't care that people think I don't care.
I didn't necessarily take it as something where it needed sympathy. I thought it was interesting that they explored beauty from a man's point of view
Mm.
because, you know, in the story, when Adachi talks about Kurosawa, he makes it a point to not just mention the fact that Kurosawa is handsome and everyone in the office likes him. He also like he's the top seller in our office. He's probably the most competent person in our office work-wise.
Mm.
And so it kind of is interesting how a lot of times women will say, I could be the most competent person in the room, but because I'm a woman, people judge me on my looks before they judge me on my productivity or what I
Mm.
have to offer. And for Kurosawa, he had the exact same kind of thing. Here he is, like a former sports star in high school, winner of a lot of awards, probably went to college, gets this job, is competent in what he does. And we know he is because when he helps Adachi with his report for Adachi's boss, the boss is like, well, the report was perfect because you helped him out. So
Mm.
obviously he's got a brain in there. But when he goes to have dinner with President Matsuda,
Mm.
like, you want to go somewhere and rest, drink up, honey. And it
Mm.
was just very interesting to see that behavior foisted on a man as opposed to a woman, because you could absolutely take that same situation, substitute it with a female character, and you'd be like, oh, stereotypical sexual harassment, stereotypical, you know, just diminishing of a female's actual gifts for the job.
Mm.
But I think about that, like why is it that this is so relatable and is something that's been explored a lot when it comes to women, but we
Mm.
don't really see a lot of stories about a man kind of being dismissed for his looks. And
Mm.
not saying that handsome men don't have a significant advantage in society, because they absolutely do. Let's
Mm.
not get it twisted. But I do think that sometimes extremely handsome men aren't taken seriously for their minds.
Mm.
And so I found that to be a very interesting thing to explore. And I thought that was a good basis for his infatuation with Adachi. Because we didn't understand prior to then, like, why are you so crazy about this guy? Because he kind of seems like he doesn't ever talk to anybody and he kind of keeps his head down and stays in his
Mm.
work. And that's just what he does. But then they showed, like, Adachi was probably the first person to tell him, like, I admire you because I think that you're a competent person. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool that you are handsome and everything else, but like you're actually really good at what you do. And it's kind of nice to see you not be perfect.
Yeah. No, I like that part. I actually think that one of the scenes that they did a really good job with that was when Adachi was confessing, like, oh, I like you too. Is like they had the scene in a previous episode where it was like girls asking him out. And he was like, why do you want to date me? And they didn't really have an answer besides like, we think you're good looking. But when Adachi was like, oh, I want to date you, he listed off like three things and none of them were his looks at all, you know?
Yeah, he's like, the way you make me feel, the way that I can't stop thinking about you, the way that you've helped me out, like all these different things that have nothing to do with the way that he looks. And is what you want to hear, because looks fade. You
Mm-hmm.
know, let's be honest. There's some people that start out life super beautiful and they ended not so much. And you want somebody who'll stay regardless of how the physical may change. So I just think
Right.
that that's really beautiful that that's what they decided to do. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I also thought it was interesting that Kurosawa is an extremely confident person in every aspect of his life, pretty much, except for his relationship with Adachi. Like, because even when the issue was like, I'm handsome and people only think about my handsomeness, it takes a pretty confident person to be like, yeah, I'm handsome.
Mm-hmm.
Most people will try to like, oh, I'm not bad looking, but no, he's like, no, I'm hot. I get that I'm hot, you
Yeah.
know. But when it comes to Kurosawa, he's constantly second guessing himself about how much he could possibly be liked, how much he's entitled to be reciprocated in the liking. There's one moment in particular that stands out to me. It's when Suge went to go see Minato dance, and he got really flustered and was running away. And Adachi talked to him, was like, "Hey, go after what you want, friend." And then he says, "By the way, this is not my colleague. This is my boyfriend."
Mm-hmm.
And the way Kurosawa was like completely flustered, like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
Like he is so insecure about that. And I wonder, and you can answer this for me because you might be more perceptive. Is he insecure about Adachi because he likes Adachi so much that he can't believe that Adachi would like him back? Or is he insecure because it is a gay relationship?
Personally, I'm gonna take it as both. I think it's a little bit of it being gay, just because Japan, they're not, you know, they're not the friendliest with the gays, especially because they're two salarymen that work in the same office. It's not a guarantee that the office will be accepting that, they couldn't get, I don't know if they could get fired for that. I don't, but I could see it as if you're in a country where being gay is not the most reciprocated thing, and you have a crush on someone in your office and you feel like you can't make a move on that, I would be shocked if that person reciprocated back. And I think it would take some time to be like, oh, okay, this could work.
Hmm. So I thought that was interesting. And even after they get together, and after Adachi has told Kurosawa, "I like you.
Mm-hmm.
I like you." He still stays very insecure. Like they go on a date to the amusement park and Adachi gets sick and he's like, "I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have taken him here. What was I thinking?" And it's like, this isn't even something that's your fault. He asked to ride this ride. He got motion sickness. You couldn't have predicted that. You couldn't have done anything different. But like he stays on his insecureness, and it's cool to see that he's not perfect in that way, but it's also really frustrating because you don't want him to be insecure in the one place where you should be secure. And
Right.
he's always like that. Even in the special episode for Valentine's Day, like he's like,
Mm.
"Oh, there's
Mm-hmm.
chocolate in his desk. Somebody else must like him. He's not going to want my
Yeah.
gift."
I felt dumb because the whole time I was sitting there, I'm like, yeah, who could it be? This is so weird. And I feel like the answer was so obvious the whole time. But I was like, oh, I'm with him. Like, we gotta find who this motherfucker is. And it's like, oh, the chocolate in his desk was for him. He just hadn't given it to him yet. And I was like,
Yeah.
But also, low-key fuck Adachi because he gave him chili chocolate and didn't tell him. And listen, if you give me chocolate and it's chili chocolate, you don't fucking tell me that that shit's gonna be spicy. First of all, I like spicy food, but I don't want spicy chocolate. I divorced. I'd be like, oh, here's your pen back. And I walk
I
away.
thought about that. I think he gave him the spicy chocolate because the Valentine's previous, when he threw the chocolate bag at Adachi, Kurosawa said, "I don't like sweet things." And so, since chocolate is a traditional gift, he's like, "What can I get him that's chocolate, but it's not sweet?" Chili chocolate. That's not sweet, but it's still chocolate. So, not being able to read minds anymore, a slight miscalculation, but he was working on previous information.
Mm-hmm.
He did his best.
No.
uh, but them together as a couple, I like so much because they just seem so quietly happy.
They do. And I love that, like, I think it was like episode 2 where they gave them something like to talk about. Like, oh, we both read the same manga. Cool. Off the bat, we have something for them to talk about when they're not on the show. Because I feel like a lot of shows, you're kind of wondering, what do these two people talk about? That's
Hmm.
not the conflict at hand. Like, what do y'all talk about? I think about that with Tharn Type. I'm like, what do they talk about after they're done fucking? Like, what's the conversation that they're having?
Hmm.
So I like that they gave us something for them to talk about. I like that when Adachi took him on their like practice date, they just went to the bookstore. They're like, we went to the bookstore, and he then took him to like this little cheap shop that he knows. You know, I just thought that was very nice. I think it was interesting. It was cute.
I think it was wonderful. And I like that they had so many times where Kurosawa just happened to be there while Adachi was problem solving for other people,
Uh huh.
because then they would talk about what just happened after it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people in relationships do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's not even just like, oh, your friends are a mess. It'll be like, we went to my mom's house for Christmas. Man, did you see what my brother said to his wife or whatever?
Right.
People do that in relationships. And so it was really nice to see the way that they talked about how they treat other people, the way that
Right.
they interact with other people, or even like just sitting down at lunch and talking about, oh, yeah, you're right. The double mayo rice ball is actually pretty decent. Like, that's what
Mm-hmm.
people do in relationships. It's not all about grand gestures and sweeping someone off to a rooftop to go hang out in a teepee, or, go on a beach vacation. Sometimes it really is just like, hey, you want to sit down and just kind of talk for a minute, catch up.
Mm-hmm.
And I really, really love that. Another thing that I really, really love is how Kurosawa supported Adachi in doing something outside of his comfort zone when he decided to join the competition at work for
Mm-hmm.
the stationery ideas.
Right.
So Adachi, like we had mentioned earlier, he's kind of one of those people like, I don't really have a dream, I don't really have a goal. But after kind of being excited about starting this relationship with Kurosawa, he's like, I kind of did that a little bit successfully. Maybe I should try at work. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so he decides to go into this stationery competition. And Kurosawa was supposed to have a date with him, but he's like, you know what? We'll postpone our date because I want you to be in the best shape possible to do this presentation. I'm going to give you tips on how to present. And he's totally serious. Like, he wasn't like, oh, I'll help you out because you're my boyfriend. No, he's like, okay, now when you're presenting, these 3 tips. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to stand in the back. You present it to me. I'll tell you where things are working,
Mm-hmm.
not working. And I just love that because that is also a thing that couples do. You bounce ideas off of each other. Not
Mm-hmm.
every couple is in the same line of work, but it definitely is like you share, oh man, today at work, A, B, C, D. And it's like, oh, well, maybe you want to try this, or oh, I hate to hear that. You okay? That kind of thing. So it just really does feel like this is a give and a take. And Adachi, even though he's probably not nearly as talented with the work aspect as Kurosawa is, he actually did have an opportunity to save Kurosawa when Kurosawa was doing a presentation to the one other company and he forgot to bring the Mont Blanc dessert.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which that was really cool that like it proved to Adachi like Kurosawa was just not so much more above you that there's nothing you can offer him.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kurosawa had a meeting with the president of some company that they're trying to manage the account for. And the guy is pissed and just yelling at Kurosawa, like, fuck this meeting. You're incompetent. I can't believe that you're not ready. And of course, at the time, Adachi has his magical powers. So he manages to touch this old man and finds out, oh, the old man wanted cake because he always gets cake when he comes here, a
Mm-hmm.
kind of cake. And he helps out Kurosawa. And the smile on Adachi's face when he sees that this works out for Kurosawa, he's like, I did it. I helped my
Mm-hmm.
man. And so I just love that for them, that they're able to kind of be there for each other in that way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did a really good job with their relationship. I really like how they handled the magic aspect, like kind of bringing it to light to Kurosawa. I thought it was going to be tiresome when it came up, because I do think that it was right that Adachi mentioned something, because it does become like an ethical problem. Like, should I tell him about this? Should I not? This is kind of affecting our relationship a little bit. I feel like I should say something. I think he was right in saying something. And I feel bad that Adachi was so self-conscious about himself that he let Kurosawa slip away for a bit. I feel bad for him for that. But I like that Kurosawa, like, and he said something at the end that I really liked, where the magic thing at the end of the day really isn't a big deal. Because it's not like he gave him a love potion that made them fall in love. It's just the magic jump started their romance a little bit. And that's fine because they're together now. It's just, the magic helped get them there, and that's fine. But it's
Right.
not
I
like
mean,
the magic was the only thing keeping the relationship alive.
oh, absolutely. Because the magic, all it did was give Adachi a window of opportunity.
Right. That he
And
took. Like,
yeah,
he
once you,
took. Episode 2, he ran into the elevator and was like, let's go get dinner. Like, let's hang out.
yeah. And like those little moments of bravery where he was willing to take a chance or willing to correct it. And Adachi does it a lot of times. They're at the company dinner and they play the king game. And one of the office mates challenges Kurosawa and Adachi to kiss because they
Mhm.
had the corresponding numbers. And of course, Adachi is completely nervous because he's never kissed anybody. And also he knows Kurosawa has a crush on him. So he's like, oh shit, I don't know. And Kurosawa kisses him on the forehead and goes upstairs. And Adachi realizes, like, I fucked this up. So
Mhm.
he gets out of his seat to go find him. And then also lets him know, like, I wasn't offended or grossed out because we're two guys and you kissed me. I was nervous because I've never been kissed. And I didn't dislike the fact that you were the one to kiss me. Like,
Right.
that was a huge foot forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Adachi is definitely very relatable to anyone that is somewhat shy. Like, it was very nice to see him break out of his shell. And I would love more episodes where that's the focus, where we
Mhm.
progress some of the themes that got us in this show.
Oh, absolutely. I think that they just played it really well and made it, again, like you said, relatable. This is somebody that you can relate to because it's not about, taking big chances and waiting at the carousel for somebody to show up in front of the entire school.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I'm going to find you and I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm not going to let this misunderstanding stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And Adachi does that over and over and over. Even in the last episode with the fireworks, he's like, I'm going to find him and I'm going to let him know that I made a huge mistake and I should not have ever let him go. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to be with him. And that takes a lot. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to say, I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just appreciate all those moments because outside of that, Kurosawa was really doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, Kurosawa. I thought the actor for Kurosawa was really good. I think what makes him work is he just has an extremely natural charm about him that makes you want to look at him. Not even just because he's good looking. He just has like an aura to him that is very appealing, and I want more of it, you know?
Yeah, he gives good face. Like his
Mhm.
eyes tell a lot of the story for him.
Mhm.
And it made it to where like he would have emotions play across his face that weren't necessarily big movements,
Mhm.
but like definitely everything that could have been said was said through his face. Like the moment that Adachi confesses back to Kurosawa and the way he like hugs him and you can see on his face like it's a mixture of like, oh my gosh, I'm so relieved. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I take this so seriously. I am never going to let you go.
Right.
Yeah, and it all is in his face. He
Mhm.
does a brilliant job of playing his emotions across his face.
Mm-hmm.
You constantly wanted to look at him to see what he was feeling, which
Mm-hmm.
also makes it to where you feel like without the magic, these two are going to do all right because both of them are kind of open books when it comes to like their facial expressions.
Yeah. And I feel like they learned that communication is important and that they just need to talk to each other and they'll figure it out, you know?
Yes. And can we talk about just really briefly about how cute the little stationery idea was that Adachi had?
I thought it was stupid as shit. No one
I
would
thought
ever
it was
use that.
I thought it was adorable and I know exactly who would use it. I think that the person who would use something like that is somebody who's like a grade school teacher. Because, okay, think about this for a minute. Imagine that you happen to be a grade school teacher or a teacher for students who maybe have special needs, especially
Mhm.
like on the autism spectrum. If you had little clips like that, that you could like say, okay, you can't say it out loud, but give me the color that tells me how you're feeling right now. Or give
Mhm.
me the face that tells me how you're feeling right now. I think something like that would be extremely useful.
I think that's a much better idea than what he had because his use for it was like in an office and no one would use that in an office. So that's why I didn't like it because the way he pitched it was not that. But I like how you took it. So I think that's good.
Mhm.
But
But I
I
thought it
really like, as a storytelling point, I love that he didn't get it. It didn't get made because he didn't earn it.
Yes, he
Cheated.
kind
He
of
didn't earn it.
cheated a little bit, you know,
Honestly,
and
he didn't even earn the nice thing that the director said to him afterwards because he had read her mind and just said what she wanted to hear.
right. But also, he felt that. He didn't take it as I earned this. He took
Right.
it as fuck.
Yeah.
That wasn't for me. And that's another reason why Adachi is so great because he has a lot of integrity and a lot of ethics.
Hmm.
And that's something that a lot of people would have just taken. And how many stories in mainstream media about people who all of a sudden get superpowers show them first abusing it, then realizing it's wrong to abuse it, and then trying to get rid of the power because it's gotten out of their control.
Hmm.
And there's never a time when it seems like Adachi is trying to use it. I mean, because even when the lady bumped into him, he didn't like put his hand on her to read her mind. She
No.
bumped into him.
It was in the elevator. There was nothing you could do.
Yeah, so like even though he had this insider information, he didn't ask for this. And he hadn't ever really used his power to be like, let me know what you're thinking. The one time he did it, actually, he did it two times. He did it once with the guy who was yelling at Kurosawa about the cake. And he did it another time when they had the company get together and Rokaku seemed really uncomfortable. And he's like, I wonder what's going on with him because he seems kind of out of sorts. And that's when he realized, oh, it's because he doesn't want to go back to the smoking room.
Hmm.
But other than that, he never really purposely used his power. Even on Kurosawa, Adachi really never purposely used his power on him.
Hmm.
So I thought that was those are cool notes to show in this show.
Hmm.
All right. So before we talk about Suge and Minato, I want to talk about my favorite girl.
The only girl. I did like her a lot. I think the actress has the best smile I've ever seen. Also, when her and Rokaku were on the roof with the fireworks, I was like, woo, straight rights. Like, let's
But
get it.
no, because she's ace.
Oh, she is?
I feel like she's ace. Okay, so this is the reason why I found her character super interesting. Not just because she was like a nice female who didn't want to have romance, but in the elevator, she was like, "I like Adachi because I feel like he would say that it was okay for me not to be interested in relationships at all, and that it's okay that I'm not normal."
Hmm.
Now, the subtitle person put normal, which makes me think that she feels like she's abnormal. Now,
Hmm.
it could be that she feels like she's abnormal because she's not interested in going into a relationship right now because she's focused on her work. Or it could be I'm abnormal because I never want to be in a romantic relationship because that's just not how I express my sexuality.
Hmm.
And so I thought that was really interesting because as a woman in Japan, Japan has a really low
Birth rate?
birth rate. Thank you. And it's been a thing that the government has been like trying to pay people to have babies, but people are waiting a really long time to get married, get into relationships because they just don't want to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see her having a lot of pressure on her as a beautiful young woman to be like, you need to get married, you need to have kids, you need to fill in a traditional wife role. And she's like, no, actually, when I get done working at the stationery company, I think I'm going to be a social worker, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I thought it was really cool that she was able to maintain these absolutely platonic relationships with all these people and be very true to herself. And there was no like push to get her to change her mind about relationships in order to get together with somebody.
Mm-hmm. I
The,
don't know if she's ace though, because she did say that she had like in canon had a crush on um Adachi. But maybe
did
she's
she?
like like she's asexual, but she's willing to, because there's asexual people that are willing to have like a romantic relationship, but not a sexual one. So maybe that's where she is. I think
And
that'd
like the
be
times
too
that
to
she said,
explore.
well, the times that she said that she liked him, it was after he said something that spoke to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like she said she liked him, but I don't think that she meant like, oh, you're so hot. I think she meant like, I really like that you think like that.
Oh, I took it as this is a shoujo manga. He's got a lot of people after him.
No, no, because Adachi, the when she first says she likes Adachi is after they're in the cake shop getting the cakes for the party. And he says something about like, everybody tries to push you into relationships, but if you don't want to be in a relationship, you should just be allowed to do what you're doing. And that's when they touch and he feels that she likes him.
Yeah, but then she also says something in the elevator where it's like, oh, even if I don't get to date him, I just hope Adachi's happy if he's with Kurosawa or with whoever.
Okay, my subs didn't say even if I don't get to date him.
Oh,
So so my subs were different because my subs were like, it says I like him even if it's with Kurosawa, I hope he's happy. But she didn't say anything about her dating him. But then immediately after she says, even if it's Kurosawa, I hope he's happy. And then she says, I like Adachi because he seems like he would understand me and the
mhm.
fact that I'm not looking for relationships. And that's why I took it as like her feeling that she liked him after he said something very similar, and then again in the elevator saying that she thought that he would understand her, and
Mhm.
then when he suggests going home with her to pretend to be her boyfriend, she like you could see her visibly like kind of clinch up, and then
Yeah,
he's
she
like,
was not here for
no,
it.
no, I'm not going to go as your boyfriend. I just want to go back with you to tell your parents that you're doing just fine the way you are and that they should be proud of like what you're doing right now, and the
Mhm.
visible relief that comes over her like, oh, thank goodness, that's all right, cool, friend, I'll call you if I need you.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if she really liked him and thought there was a chance for them, then him suggesting to go home with her to her parents as her boyfriend, she would have hopped on that
Hmm.
because she seems like a fairly confident person.
Hmm.
So I loved it. I thought she was a great addition, and she definitely was a character that we just don't see. Like we get a lot of girls in BL who are boy crazy. Even if they're not like boy crazy, like I'm trying to date every boy, they're like, I just want to see boys kiss and hug in front
Yeah.
of me. And like even when she was excited to think that those two might be together, it didn't even seem like it was coming from a I'm a Fujoshi place. It more seemed like from a I see the way that they look at each other. I think they could be happy together. They're both
Hmm.
really nice people.
I loved when Kurosawa was like, oh, if I were to take someone on a date, what do you think of this restaurant? She's like, I think Adachi would like this one best. And he's like, yeah, I think so. Ooh. And she's
Just
like,
in
it's
time.
chill, but yeah, that restaurant.
Right. So I really liked her because she just is somebody we don't get, and I would love to see more of that because some people that's just not where they're at, even if it's not like showing more aromantic characters or ace characters. Maybe just show people who are like, relationships and stuff are cool, but that's not where I'm headed right now because I'm kind of focused on my schoolwork, or I'm focused on my, work life, or I'm focused on trying to get all my shit together because I'm going on an extended trip, whatever it may be. But just showing people that have a different focus but they're still a part of the story because of their friendship with one of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see that more often.
I would too. I really liked her. I wish we had more screen time with her. I wish she had something in the special episode. Just an episode on her. I don't know. I thought she was interesting. She was cute.
I liked her a lot. Okay, so should we talk about Rokaku and him being just completely oblivious, or should we talk about Suge and Minato?
Let's talk about Suga and Minato.
Minato. I'm sorry, I keep saying his name wrong. Minato. Minato.
I
hated.
think we're both technically wrong.
I'm sure it's whatever. We're sorry for getting the names wrong, but Japanese names are not something I pronounce very often, so I'm gonna fuck up, and I apologize. It's not done out of offense. I hated Suge the first couple of times I saw him on screen.
Really?
I did, and I think it's because his energy is so different than Adachi and Kurosawa. So like him appearing on screen reminded me that we're in Japan.
Yeah, it was definitely like that over the top acting you'd get in a drama or like in an anime or something.
Right. And like especially when he would apologize to Minato and he's like full on the floor bowing and just hair askew like I'm
Screaming.
so sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't like this." But as the series went on and he had quieter moments, I really liked his friendship with Adachi because you started to get why they were friends.
Right. Because they were the same type of person.
Yeah.
Had their little shell and they want to break out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know, like all the ways that Suge just kind of completely would overcompensate and then like overreact.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's just a very sensitive person, and I felt like that form of misunderstandings leading to drama is more understandable with somebody that's hyper reactive.
Right. Like the whole bike scenario was believable.
Yeah, because first of all, you shouldn't have just randomly bought bikes like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge gift to give to somebody, even if y'all are fucking on the reg. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a big deal because bikes in Japan are not cheap. They're very expensive, several $100s, and you bought matching bikes.
Right. Well, it
And
seemed like he was pretty wealthy. I literally
I
took it as he was a pretty successful author. He's just like a quiet person who doesn't have a lot, so he just like chose to live in a small place.
I didn't take it as like, I mean, he could be wealthy, but I still think that buying bikes is a big deal, even if you have money, because like you have to gauge what the other person is comfortable with receiving.
That's no, I'm not saying that he should have bought the bikes. I'm just saying that I think it was an affordable purchase for him.
Yeah. I'm not saying like you shouldn't spend your money that way. I'm just saying like if you are started dating with somebody and you guys are getting to know each other and at this point in their relationship, okay, there's a timeline here. The day that Kurosawa spends the night at Adachi's house is October the 28th. And I only know that because in his thoughts, he's like, October the 28th, the day I start my cohabitation with Adachi.
Mm-hmm.
And then their date was supposed to be December the 24th, Christmas Eve,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that is about a couple of months is that gap in between there. A couple of months for that gap is when Suge and Minato start dating.
Mm-hmm.
So after a month or two of dating somebody, you might be giving them some gifts. Like you might be like, I'll treat you to dinner. I'll buy you gloves when we're out shopping because your hands are cold. But I
A
think
bike is a
that,
lot.
yeah. So like they had not been dating a long time when he's like, I got us matching bikes. And Minato, of course, his reaction wasn't the best because instead of being like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a gracious gift," he's like, "I was talking about a different kind of bike,"
Mm-hmm.
which okay, kids. But also, like, I don't think he said that to be mean. I think he said that out of discomfort because that is a huge thing for him
Mm-hmm.
because he's a struggling, aspiring idol
Mm-hmm.
And he's also working as a delivery guy. That's his gig while he's in between like dancing and trying to debut. So that probably is a lot for him in terms of what he would be able to reciprocate to Suge. And that's something that you do need to be kind of cognizant of, is like, yes, you're a 30-year-old man and you're doing well in your career and you have money, and these are things that aren't a big expense or a big sacrifice for you, but for me, this is big. I could never replicate this. And it becomes a problem in their relationship later on in the special episode, where Minato's like, I'm really trying to pursue my dreams and I want to be somebody that you can be proud of, but like, you've already won. You've already pursued your dreams and you've gotten awards and people know who you are and you're a big deal. And I just feel like I'm nobody.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think that I get why Suge would do something like that. And then if it's not received well, totally like fly off the handle or totally like crawl back into his shell and glue the door shut. But I'm hoping that as they pursue their relationship, and there were signs of it, that they learn to talk instead of just assuming everything. A lot of assumptions.
Well, I mean, I think that the last bit of the special episode about them was just about that, and how Suge was like, "You're not a no one. I literally wrote a book about you. You won awards. Like, you
And
may
I'm
not,
gonna write another one.
yeah, and I'm gonna get a sequel." Yeah, I actually like that he like went and took photos of him dancing, just because it was like, this is you. You are someone special. You may not see
Mhm.
it, but I do. And
Yeah.
that's valid. It was very sweet.
And I wish that he'd come up with a different excuse for why he was taking the pictures. Cause like the way he's like, because I am a dancer too. And I was getting inspiration. It's like, you didn't have to go that route. You could have just said, like, we're friends and I was helping him with his idol stuff.
Website,
Like, yeah, building a
headshots,
portfolio for
whatever.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was willing to tell everybody you knew each other. So he wasn't like, who's this disgusting old man taking pictures of me? He's like, no, I know him. So
Yeah.
you didn't have to go that far. You could have been like, well, I'm taking these photos for him to help him out with his idol career. These are
Mhm.
promotional photos.
I thought it was interesting though that when Minato said, "Why didn't you tell them about us?" Suge said, "I didn't want them to make fun of you." And I thought that was interesting because I think the better response was, because you want to be an idol and this could ruin your career. Because that's the honest answer is, you want to be an idol, and if it comes out that you're fucking an older man that is of some type of status, that's not good.
That is true, but I think also Suge has really low self-esteem, and so that's why
Yeah,
he took it as like, I'm not good enough.
right.
Especially because of like the big kind of, I don't want to say fight, but I guess incident when he first let Minato know that he was watching him dance. Like the first time he saw him dance, he was like watching him from afar and didn't make his presence known. But the second time he came with Adachi and Kurosawa to watch him dance, and there was a big kind of fight between Minato and his former boyfriend, who was being a
Right.
complete asshole and gaslighter. And I think he got embarrassed then because they're like,
Mhm.
mind your business, old man. And so I think that he hasn't gotten over their age gap, number one. And
Mhm.
also this kind of feeling that like, I'm old and I'm boring. I wear turtlenecks every fucking day.
Mhm.
And so like, why would you want to be seen with someone like me when you're so fashionable and you're so fresh and you're so
Mhm.
kind of trendy?
Mhm.
So I wish that Suge would think differently of himself, but you can tell like his own personal achievements don't really mean as much to him. Like it's kind of a means to an end. Like he gets excited about a lot of them. Like he got excited about getting the award for the book he wrote about Minato, but I almost feel like he was more excited because it was an award based on a work about Minato more than it was that I got an award because I did really great.
Maybe. I would love to know, like, if I mean, I can see why they didn't have time for this, but I would like to know what about his work changed, because he was a romance novelist, but he'd never been in a relationship. And now that he's in one, he wrote a book about it, I would be interested to know, like, what about the writing had changed? How is the stories different? But that's just like, that's not anything that they should ever touch upon. I'm just like curious about the internal narrative.
Yes, I guess it's one of those like pornographer type of changes. Like once you start getting it, all of a sudden your writing gets better.
It did remind me of the pornographer for a bit. Yeah.
You're like, so do you want to play with these toys?
Yeah.
Daddy, what?
He's like, I thought it was cat toys. He's like,
No. Nene. Oh man. And then like when they finally do confess to each other after he does like the bow and he's like, I like you too. And they go back to his house, he's like, I'm so excited because I never thought anybody and I didn't know and I'm so nervous because I never thought. And he's like, shh, don't say anything. I'll be gentle. I was like, ooh, this young man did not come to play. Yeah.
I was surprised they fucked on the first date. I was like, you know, good for you, Suga.
Yes, Udon was very judgmental though.
Yeah. I will say the one thing I didn't like about Suga and Minato was I don't think that they had anything to talk about. I think that they had like I appreciated that they were both people who went after their dreams, but in terms of like what do they have in common, it was just that the cat was cute, you know?
Yeah, they're just both artistic types and they like Udon the cat, which who wouldn't? But yeah, what else do they have in common? I don't know. I wonder if maybe Suge looks at Minato as being like who he would be if he was a more confident person.
That's interesting because he was saying at the beginning how much he like hated that type of person. And it is questionable if it's like, is this some like internalized thing of like they're doing a thing that you feel you can't do, of dyeing your hair and dressing more gaudy and things like that.
Right. So that could be part of it because I think that's what he dwelled on is like their differences rather than where they could kind of be similar.
Right.
So, yeah. I guess the last person we need to talk about is Rokaku and how he is so damn oblivious to everything.
This man is so dumb. Like Kurosawa was basically telling him, Adachi and I are fucking, back off. Basically, he was saying that. And he's like, oh, they're just trying to help their junior. And it's like, you dense motherfucker.
Like the moment that he was like roughhousing with Adachi and then the phone rings, that should have been your clue. Because the way he was looking was like, you know, like he's ready to fight you. Read the room. This is why you're a bad salesman. Learn to read the room.
Yeah, he's sweet, but he's simple.
Yeah. But, you know, hopefully at one point he will get it. It may take a few years, but hopefully one day he'll be let in on the secret.
They're going to move in together and he'll be like, wow, you guys must be such good friends. And they're like, oh, he still doesn't know.
Right?
You have a 1-bedroom. So who sleeps on the floor?
I'm telling you, one day it's going to be Adachi trying to sell his apartment. And he's like, listen, I'm moving out of my apartment and moving in with Kurosawa. Would you like to rent my place because it's a good rate? And he's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're helping me like this. But aren't you two going to be crowded in Kurosawa's 1-bedroom? No, we'll be fine. That's true because you guys are such great friends. I'm sure you're very understanding about sharing small spaces.
It's like, also, they should definitely move into Kurosawa's place, if anything.
Oh, absolutely. His place looked way nicer. His bathtub sings.
Yeah.
I love that. The bathtub's like, the bath is ready.
It was cute.
I want to live that life.
Sam, if you dream it, you can do it.
One day. One day. But also, was I the only one who felt like it was very premature for Kurosawa to be proposing to Adachi?
I am fine with it. I'm fine with it. I was like, yep, this is, I don't know. It was just like, it was a very sweet story. It was very romantic and overdramatic at times. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay with this ending. I think it's a nice way to button it up of like, we really love each other and we just get along great. So let's not break up anymore. We're together. I like that.
I think I would have liked it better if Kurosawa was not on his knee. Only because like it felt like a proposal with him being on his knee, where I think if he had been standing while he was giving that speech or whatever and then presented the pins, it would have felt more in keeping with the pace that their relationship has had this whole time. Because they've been moving rather slow, like nothing outside of a hug up until that night. But then again, I guess in Japan, once I say this to you, all of a sudden you need to fuck me because later on that night, the magic's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, I loved the scene the next morning. Oh, it was so perfect.
Cute. Merry Christmas. Oh, Merry Christmas. You're supposed to say good morning. Like it was just like, yep, that's what I can see it. That's a couple. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
So, if you can't tell by now, me and Mason have both thoroughly enjoyed Cherry Magic. There has been some talk about them doing a redo of Cherry Magic, which I don't know the details of. I think they're wanting to do a movie, but that it would possibly be done with different actors, which fuck out of here.
Why?
Don't I don't know. Why would you do that? This if you're gonna do a movie, put all these same people in it because they work. They absolutely work. The storyline is not so great you could just pluck anybody off the street and throw them in it because the storyline really feeds off of the energy and the chemistry of these actors.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do not like this, Sam.
I don't understand. The only thing we need is a season 2. That's all we need. And
Would
season
love
2 needs to
season
be
two.
two needs to be all about like work life
Balance.
and balance, yeah, that kind of thing. And maybe Suga and Minato kind of like coalescing into kind of not being on such different planes.
Right.
Yeah, because I think that Suge is due for a makeover because he looks so incredibly fucking old. I'd like to see him do anything. It just not wear a turtleneck. How about that? Let's start small.
He needs a makeover and he needs to like take a Xanax and like calm down.
Right. Like I could not believe that he was younger than Kurosawa in real life.
Oh, really?
Yes, the actor that plays Kurosawa is 30. The actor that plays Suge is 28.
Hmm.
And it's just like, I don't believe you because that man looks a smooth 35.
Right.
But whatever. What are you going to do? But yeah, I like this show a lot. And if they do anything else with it, they need to bring back all the same people because they just fucking work here.
Mm-hmm.
They work. Woo! This is a great show. This is a great show. Still not as good as I told Sunset about you, but really the bar is so high there. But in terms of in terms of what Japan has to offer, now if you are finally caught up, you can see why I chose it over Life Love on the Line.
I I would have done the same had I been caught up, but
Yeah.
I am glad that I wasn't just because I do think Life, Love on the Line did deserve a nod in our award show. So I'm okay with how it ended, but I do agree Cherry Magic was the better show. And both of those really just make me excited for what Japan has to offer when it comes to boys love coming up. There are a lot of really great manga that I would love to see adapted. My top two being Escape Journey. I would love to see an Escape Journey um, live action, or Candy Color Paradox, both of which I have had for mangas of the week before.
Yes. Because I think that while it's easy to take something like The Pornographer and try to adapt it into a short series to try to get the Fujoshi fans and the BL fans to join in. I think stuff like this is a nice change of pace only because the length allows you to feel like it's a more complete story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't get me wrong, Life Love on the Line, another story based on a manga, was great. It was really, really good, and the story was tight and it was cute and it was cool. But like, you did not get a feeling of what life was like outside of the home for these two people especially like in Life Love on the Line, I can't remember the characters' names right now because I'm terrible with names, but the one who had to quit his job as a salaryman in order to be like a screenwriter, you have no idea if he has any friends outside of the man that he was living with.
Right.
All you know is that he has a mom, but you don't
Yeah.
know anything about whether or not he's got other friends at work or if he has other interests or anything else. And it made it to where when the relationship broke up, it was just like you have a lot of anger because it seems like this is all that this person has.
Right.
Whereas when Adachi and Kurosawa broke up, I'm like, I feel like they're going to get back together because this was just a misunderstanding and the people around them are going to knock some sense into their heads. And
Right.
that's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that this can encourage people, especially people who've got longer works that maybe have multiple books, to do the adaptation, but do it in a way that allows people to really enjoy the characters and the world and not just get from point A to point sex.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would like to see that. I would like to see that. Even though if you want to do a part 3 to the whole pornographer mood indigo series, I am here for it. Call me.
Fair enough. All right. So I'm gonna give Cherry Magic an 8.5. I really liked it. I thought it was very good.
I absolutely agree. Same score. The only thing that keeps it from getting like a 9, in my opinion, is again the Suga Minato story was just not as developed as I believe it could be. But it also
I
could be
agree.
underdeveloped in the manga, and if that's the case, there's really not much they could do.
I disagree. They can always beef it up um, when they're translating it. But I think the reason I'm giving an 8.5 is because while I really liked the show, I'm not sure how much rewatchability it has for me personally. And I don't know how long I'm gonna sit on it. Like, I don't think this is a show I'm gonna be like I think about I Told Sunset About You still, you know? I don't know how long I'm gonna be sitting on Cherry Magic. It was a very fun ride. I would 100% recommend it to people.
Cherry Magic is absolutely going to be that boys' love for Japan that I'm going to hold up and say you need to meet this standard, and
Yeah.
that's the reason why I feel like the 8.5 is deserved.
Mhm.
Also, I didn't talk about this at all while we were reviewing it. This show really made me feel like I was exploring Japan culturally.
Hmm.
Like I don't know why. Life of Love on the Line was a very Japanese story and very much rooted in like salaryman culture and being homogenous and not really standing out. But this story, I don't know if it's because of the places they went and the scenery and stuff, but I really felt like, oh, so this is what Japan is like for average people when you're like not in the middle of Tokyo and stuff like that, like tourist traps.
Mhm.
Like even the restaurants that they chose to were like dark restaurants that look like they had had their heyday in the 80s and have just
Mhm.
been kind of like well maintained since then.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I found all of those things very interesting. Even the fact that they worked at a stationery company, but like the stationery there was so boring.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay. Because when I think of Japanese stationery, I think of Hello Kitty stationery. But there's like a whole, we have people that we know on Twitter, like people that are into K-pop, but are also like stationary fanatics. And it's not about the cuteness of the stationery. For them, it's all about like the way the pen feels when it's scratching across the paper and
Mhm.
how big of a line it makes, how wide or how thin, and all how it feels in your hand.
Mhm.
And like those are the things, the preciousness of Japan, I think sometimes I miss. Like not the kawaii preciousness, but like just the idea of like putting a lot of work into something so small and just so kind of mundane. And
Oh.
I found that to be very, very interesting. I especially loved Adachi's apartment because his apartment was so fucking bland and
Yeah.
just every day. And I love that. I love that that was his, because it was his life. His life was very mundane and his
Mhm.
apartment reflected that. And of course, Kurosawa's apartment is going to be great because he's great. And then Suge's apartment is going to be mostly books and cat toys because that's mostly his life. So yeah, I really enjoyed how Japanese this show felt.
That's a good point. I'm glad you had a nice takeaway from it. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage because I watched a lot of anime. So I think I'm used to like that a little bit. But man, I'm telling you, if you haven't used Japanese stationery, that lead is like butter. Japanese pencil lead is like butter. It's great. I love drawing with it.
I'm going to trust you. And now that I know this, then next Christmas, when I inevitably pull your name for a Secret Santa, I'm going to have to send you some Japanese.
For those who don't know, Sam and I, we do Secret Santa every year with a group of friends. And the last 2 years, she got me. So,
through no fault of my own.
yeah.
Absolutely not me. It just, the algorithm says, buy things for Mason. He's cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's true.
So, well, I think it's Samantha's rant time. Do you have one today?
I have a mini rant.
Okay. Before you launch, I'm going to grab my phone because it's over there and I have my Instagram of the day that I need to do afterwards. So let me grab that while you're speaking.
Okay. All right. So Samantha's rant is a mini rant, and it's a mini rant because it's very specific to one particular property, and that is the reason why it's mini, because it doesn't really apply to anything else. I really hate the way that bottom and top was used by people watching Cherry Magic specifically. So I remember when I was watching the show in real time, like as the episodes were coming out every week, and people were uploading it on YouTube and then getting their channels disappeared. There was one channel that had uploaded the episode where Adachi gets sick and Kurosawa has to take care of him. And someone in the comments wrote, just like a bottom, always getting sick to get attention from their top. And that bothered the shit out of me. Like, I could not get over that comment. And it has stuck with me since, even though, like I said, the channel that I watched it on at that time totally disappeared. And I feel like this show, there was only ever one time where I considered who was maybe a giver or receiver sexually, and that was when Minato like told Suge he was going to be gentle. That was the only time I ever thought about it, because of the fact that he heavily implied like, I'm going to fuck you. And that's it. Other than that, I never really thought about it. But it bothered me with this show because I've since seen memes and other people talk about what a good uke Adachi is and what a cute bottom he is. And I feel like people who say that about these characters in this show are completely missing the point. Because I don't think that the point of this show is about who's bottoming or topping or anything else in their relationship. It's absolutely about the affection and the emotions that these characters have. And sex is the last thing on my mind on this particular show. Like, I love that it's implied that they're having sex, and that's cool. And you can take it as, one was getting topped, one was not, whatever. But the sex just was never a focus for me because I was so invested in like their communication and their honesty and those kinds of things. And I really wish that people would allow cute things to be cute things. Like, just let some sweet stuff just be fucking sweet. There were so many people who were angry about the fact that we didn't get a kiss from the main characters through this show. And I'm like, I don't know why you're upset that this is not GMM TV. You don't wait till the last episode to get one big kiss. This is not what this is. So you've been watching an entire season of this show over the last 2 to 3 months. Why are you just now upset that it's not racy when it's never been? If there was ever a time for the two lead characters to kiss, it would have been when Adachi confessed to Kurosawa after Kurosawa had confessed and avoided him. That would have been where a kiss would have been absolutely appropriate. But instead they went for a hug. And in that moment, anybody watching should have known what kind of show this was.
Right.
But people got so pissed and angry about copping out on the kiss for this. And it's just like, what are you seeing when you watch this show? Because you must not be seeing the same thing that I'm seeing. Because they're not even that kind of a couple.
I mean, it just seems like the general like fetishization of cute gay boys gotta kiss. And like there's so many shows where fucking just is what it's about. Darn tight. Why are you? Like we've had them this year. So it was nice to have something that was just cute. That's so upsetting to me.
It was upsetting to me too. It almost felt, and I don't want to infantilize any of the actors or any of the characters, but it almost felt like somebody trying to force sexuality on a very innocent property. Not that it's like super like, oh no, they can't possibly. No, I know they're fucking. I know they're fucking. They woke up in bed together. They talk about how their magic is gone. The magic is gone when you start fucking. Like that's obviously there.
Mhm.
But like that's just not what this show was about. And that's the reason why it's so frustrating. Like, can't we just let some things be what they are? Why does everything have to fall into a BL box?
Mhm.
I'm so sick of that. I'm sick of shows having to be a certain way in order for it to be considered, acceptable to the BL gods. And
Mhm.
it goes both ways. It goes both ways, absolutely. Like, I don't think that a show should be forced to be super sexual. I don't think the show has to be completely tame and only have one kiss or lingering looks in order to be acceptable BL. I'm willing to go with both. If you want to show me your entire ass cheek, I'm here to look.
Mhm.
But I also think that the most effective part of good stories is the way they set their tone. And when shows kind of go far away from the tone that they initially set, that's when I find myself having the most problems with it. Prime example, Why Are You? Why Are You didn't set a tone for me of being a super sexy show until we got to the beach. And then it was just like, okay, when are we not going to see Z without his shirt on?
Mhm.
And it to me it kind of fucked up the story, because then when it was time to scale it back, when COVID allowed people to go back to filming, it was like, I feel like adding a storyline here is just thrown in there. Like, why are we having conflict now all of a sudden when
Mhm.
everything was just all about fucking earlier?
Mhm.
So like I think that properties should be allowed to be what they are, and they shouldn't necessarily have to have a standard two or three kisses or two or three handholds or whatever in order for them to be successfully meeting the criterion of a BL.
Mhm.
BL is two boys who identify as boys, despite what they may have been gendered at birth, falling in love and having love for each other. To me, that's what a BL is. And anything outside of that is not, which is why the shipper really isn't a BL.
Mhm.
But I think that there's a lot of room in that definition. I wish more people would respect that room.
Mhm.
So that is my mini rant for today.
Good rant.
Thank you.
Okay.
um do you want to do your manga and then do you want me to do the Instagram, or do you want me to do the Instagram real quick before you do your manga? Because I have 3 Instagrams.
I have an Instagram too.
Okay, well, your Instagrams are the artists, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do that instead, because I think everybody can find the actors on their own.
Okay.
So yeah.
And the manga I was going to recommend was Cherry Magic. So if you have
Yeah.
another recommendation, feel free.
No, I was just gonna do the Instagrams for the two main actors, Adachi Kurosawa, and then I was gonna give the Instagram for Rukaku. That was what I was gonna give for
Oh,
today.
okay. So I have one Instagram. There is someone who has done just so much, and I mean like 25 at least, posts comics, illustrations, little animations of Adachi and Kurosawa. The artist is Cindy Yang. The Instagram is art Susan929. So ART. So there's no spaces in this, by the way. No spaces, no nothing. ARTTZUCIN 929.
TZUZ Okay. I'm glad you
C-I-N.
spelled out Susan because I was like S-U-S-A-N, Art Susan.
No, Sin. Like it's part of her, she's Chinese or Taiwanese.
Yeah.
So Cindy does a lot of just the most amazing, if you want to kiss, I mean, come on, so good. We stan. I'm obsessed. Or like a comic. So all of her art is usually posted in both Chinese and Mandarin, I believe, and in English. So if you are Mandarin speaking, you can enjoy it as well. But if you're watching this, you're probably English speaking. But Cindy is super talented. We went to school together. She is one of the nicest people I've ever met. And also, please follow her and get in on the ground floor because she is going to be a big name in animation one day. And you need to follow her and get in on the ground floor when you can. So please
I
follow
like
Cindy.
it.
The art is phenomenal, very talented, very nice person. So please follow her.
I like it. They look so
They're
adorable.
so cute. I'm obsessed. I love the little animations she did. Like, look at this Adachi. It's so cute. Oh, so good. And this Kurosawa, he's so happy. Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, go follow Cindy. Enjoy Cindy's content.
All right. So, um, if you guys still want to know the Instagrams for the different people, I wasn't gonna make a big deal out of it because, like I said, everybody can find them. Um, so for Adachi, his Instagram is AKASOEIJI. So it's Akaso Eji, which is his name or his stage name, but yeah, it's AKASOEIJI. And he's got a decent amount of followers. He's got a little under a 500,000, so that's cool. Um, and then for Kurosawa, if you'd like to follow him, his Instagram name is a lot longer, but it's very much kind of a corporate Instagram in a lot of ways. It is Kita Mashita Official, which his name, Kita Mashita. So it's KEITA underscore MACHIDA underscore OFFICIAL. So it's Kita Mashita Official. So Kita underscore Mashita underscore official. And he's got almost 1 million followers. But part of it is because, again, he's a member of one of the Exile subunits. So they have a lot of followers just from Exile being massive.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is an Instagram for Rukaku, and I feel like this might be his official Instagram just because it has 153,000 followers, but it's got a really weird name. So I don't know necessarily if this is actually his official Instagram. Also, like there's not a lot of information in the description line. So
Is it verified?
uh no, but neither are the other two.
Oh, I thought they were. Huh.
But this is the Instagram that was tagged by the other cast members, which is the reason why I feel like this is the official Instagram for him because he
Mhm.
was tagged by both Kita and EG. So that's why I feel like this is his Instagram. It wasn't one that I just pulled out of my hat. But it's Takaniko Chanman. So I will spell that for you. It's TAKUNICOCHANMAN. Takutino Chanman. So, and he's got a lot of his idol activity on his page as well. Like he's got Cherry Magic stuff, but he's also got like clips from him being on stage with his group. So, if you are interested in following his idol life, then you can do that there as well. Yeah. And
Cool.
I'm I enjoyed going down the YouTube rabbit hole of trying to find their idol clips. That was fun.
Oh, I'm gonna do that later. That sounds like a good time. All right, so Sam, I forgot the name of the movie we're watching next.
No problem, no problem. So next week we are going to be doing Your Name Engraved Herein. It is a movie out of Taiwan. It was released in theaters, and it was one of the top grossing movies in Taiwan for 2020. So that's awesome. But it recently got released to US Netflix. And so that's why we're going to be watching it, because we couldn't watch it when it came out a few months ago because it was not available to us both legally and super hard to find illegally. So
I have tried.
yeah, I super did. I super did. For many weeks I tried. So we're excited to be watching it. But me and Mason were talking before we did this episode about what is going to be on the menu for the weeks to come after next week. And there are a couple of things that make menu planning hard for us. Part of it is we're just not interested in watching shitty shit and reviewing shitty shit. Like straight up facts. Because there's a lot of stuff we could be talking about that we just haven't because it's shitty shit and we don't want to talk about shitty shit.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some other shows that are like legacy shows where it's part twos that we kind of felt like maybe we should talk about them. So we had that going. But then we said, okay, well, if we're not really super interested in what's going on currently, maybe we need to do some of what we did when we initially started doing reviews and reach back and maybe get some older stuff, or maybe talk about some things that aren't necessarily Asian boys love, because we've stuck very hard to Asian boys love. So one of the discussions we were having is Scam, because there is a story there to be reviewed and discussed. Um, and different iterations of Scam, by the way. So we've got original Scam that's in consideration, but then we've also been told to give a good firm look at German Scam season 3 specifically. So we thought we'd just kind of leave it to the audience to kind of tell us maybe of some properties that you feel like would be a good match for kind of what we review, how we review, because I mean, if you're trying to recommend something that we're just watching to tear it apart, that's kind of not what we're really into. We're really into something that has a little bit more meat to it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, leave your recommendations down below. I absolutely have some things that I would love to go back and revisit. One thing I would specifically like to go back and revisit, because we've never reviewed it on this channel, is the Soda series.
Yeah, I think we need to do Sodas at some point.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about just with like the actors of Sodas.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be a day whenever we get to Sodas.
Yes, and so this leads into maybe a general discussion about GMM TV. So let me put my cards out on the table here. This is not Samantha's rant. I already did that. This is just Samantha being very real with you. I watched the first episode of Tonhon Chonlati, and I was really excited about the show. It looked like it was going to be cute, and it had Plypod, and it had cow tongue, and I was like, this is going to be great. As I have been watching every single episode as the season has progressed, it has gotten more and more difficult to be excited about this show, to the point that I'm not even sure if we should review it on our channel. But this is a GMM TV issue, and it's an issue that, like, GMM TV, as much as they have been kind of forward thinking with certain betrayals of communities and allowing actors to be to play maybe against type or whatever, they still seem to stand by a very heteronormative idea of what relationships are, and they seem to stick to a very culturally insensitive idea of what gay people are like, and
Mm-hmm.
how they are allowed to be treated and how they are allowed to be talked to. And Tonhon Chonlati had a lot of very homophobic moments consistently throughout the entire season that really caused me to wonder whether or not reviewing it would be helpful for our audiences to decide whether or not they want to actually watch the show, or if even talking about these situations would be triggering and hurtful to the people who watch us, because the characters are not kind. And so I don't know. That's also something, if you'd like to discuss it in the comments, because the last thing I want to do is hurt anybody out there. But I mean, there are some moments in this show that I, as as a channel that makes their money off of boys love and the portrayal of gay relationships, who in their creative department allowed this shit to stand? And it's even doubly more distressing because, according to what some people have said, this homophobic behavior was not even in the original books to this extent. So this was a creative decision by GMMTV. So let me know what you think. I mean, GMMTV, they're never not going to be a point of discussion for us just because of the amount of content they've already produced and the people that they have working in house. But this is one of those times where I just don't know if we need to talk about this or if it's worth it to talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would also, in the comments, you could also leave recommendations of some anime that we could watch, just because I would really love to see another anime, Sam, but I can't think of anything that would be good that isn't like, I'll be honest, some of the most popular like yaoi anime is some of the most problematic shit that you will ever see, and I just don't want to talk about it. Like dating your brother, it's fucked. Like it's weird.
A
But
lot of rapey stuff.
Rapey, yeah. But if there's like an anime, just because I love animation, I think it'd be fun to talk about. I think one thing that I'll talk about it with Sam, but if anyone's interested, there's that very old yaoi, Gravitation. That's like a classic, so maybe we'll look into that. But if you have any animated recommendations, let me know.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us. This is our last Boys Love stream of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
This year, guys, this year, I cannot express enough how grateful I am for Mason for providing this platform for me and giving me something to look forward to every single weekend. I have thoroughly enjoyed being able to do this with him. Mason is, I feel embarrassed to say it because I don't know that I've said it before. Mason is one of my best friends currently. And and I it is so easy to feel very, very lonely right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just really glad. I'm just really glad that he chooses to spend his weekends with me, several hours a weekend with me, doing this and being my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And that you guys, for some reason, feel like it's worth watching us explore various aspects of Tangent Town.
Aw, I agree with Sam. I'm very thankful that first of all, Sam's the one that even pitched this to me. She's like, we talk a lot about boys' loves. We should just sit down and record something for it. So thank you, Sam, for thinking of this. And thank you to everyone who has watched and giving us a sense of, it felt normal to have like a thing that we did each week. Like, oh, I gotta watch the show for the review. We had a thing that we had to do, and it, was different from just work, and it was different than being sad about the pandemic. So I thank you for listening to us ramble. All right. Everyone have a safe 2020, rest of 2020. I hope 2021 brings you all some peace, some happiness, and lots of laughs.
Bye.
Bye.